Hello guys, namaste, welcome back to my channel and hi, what's up? It's Christmas time! Yes, I'm wearing red. I don't wear colorful clothes a lot, but I'm wearing red and I had to literally beg, borrow and steal from my sister. After a lot of hearing, obviously. Anyways, hi, if you're new here, this is Amisha Singh Chauhan and I do a lot of fun, dark and mysterious stuffs in this channel. So, do not forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell icon so that every time I'm here, you'll get to know about it. Also, Merry Christmas, you guys! Yeah. So, it's Christmas. I know I usually upload my videos on Mondays or on Sundays, but since it was Christmas, I thought maybe I should give my viewers and audience, every one of you, a small present. Of course, a true crime dark story. What else do you expect from this channel? What else do you expect from me? And here is my present. I am gonna talk about the Lawson family murder. The bloody Christmas. Not the bloody Christmas, because there's like a lot of bloody Christmases, but in particular about the Lawson family Christmas. So, the Lawson's family head was Charles Davis Charlie Lawson, and his wife was Fanny. He married Fanny in 1911 and they were like good friends and then they got married, typical thing. They had 8 children together. Now, by profession, Charlie was a tobacco farmer. And in 1918, following his younger brother's suit, he traveled to Germantown and he settled down there, where he started doing tobacco farming on rented land. Next, in 1920, a very unfortunate incident took place in the family. Their third born child, William, died because of pneumonia. Next, in 1927, after a lot of savings from their rented land farming of tobacco, they finally could buy their own farm on Brook Cove Road. There was also a very shackled house which was probably a couple of centuries old, but then they refurnished it and they remodeled it and they started living in that house. So everything was going perfect. They were doing pretty well from what they were doing previously in their lives, and they had 2 more kids, 2 young boys, and then a daughter again. Her name was Mary Lou and she was 4 months old when the Christmas happened. I'm talking about 1929 Christmas. They went out to get their portraits done, which was a very rare thing back in the days, back in that era. It wasn't very cheap and it would have cost Charlie a huge amount of money. And frankly speaking, Fanny was quite worried if they could afford going to the town, going to Winston-Salem market to get the portraits done and buy clothes for Christmas. Like in today's world, it is quite normal to take pictures and buy new clothes, but it was very expensive for a normal rural farmer. But according to an Associate Press wire, he was quite well-to-do farmer. So I don't know, like, was he well-to-do or wasn't he? But it was quite weird. It was a very typical Christmas morning. The oldest daughter was baking cake, preparing icing for the cake. The mother was cooking dinner on the stove, and the younger kids were playing out in the front room. It was a typical Christmas morning. Now, the father, he was preparing himself for a rabbit hunt, like he was saying. The second oldest child, Arthur, who was 16 years old then, came to his father and asked for some ammunition because he wanted to go for rabbit hunting. Now, rabbit hunting in North Carolina, it was a typical tradition for Christmas. It wasn't something very weird or something very strange. So he goes and asks his dad for some bullet shells, and his dad says that he himself was planning for some hunting and he does not have enough to provide for both of them. So he suggested that why doesn't he go to the market, that was Winston-Salem market, to go and get some for himself. And the son was like, okay, fine, I'll go and get myself some ammunitions. At the same time, the 2 daughters, the younger daughters, Carrie and Mabel, who were 12 and 7 years old respectively, decided that they wanted to go to their uncle's and aunt's house, which was like very close to the farm. So they were heading out, but they had no idea that there was someone in the farm waiting for them with a 12-gauge gun. And as soon as these 2 little girls came near to the barn, within the range, that man took his gun and shot both the girls straight, like on their face. And the unfortunate part is that they knew who did it. They knew the person. They shed his blood. It was their own father. I mean, yeah, I am not making, obviously, I never make up stories like this, but it sounds very fictitious, right? Like, how can a father shoot his own girls? But that doesn't end there. Like, it doesn't. And I know I'm smiling, but it's just the awkward and crazy side of me that is. So, what he does next is that he walks to his house, walks to his shackled home, and there he finds his wife Fanny, who had no idea about that shooting. The thing is that even if somebody did hear that shotgun, they wouldn't have any idea that someone was shooting a human being. Like I said, rabbit hunting was a tradition, so people might have thought that, someone is just shooting rabbits, and same goes for the Lawson family. So the mother has no idea that the husband Charlie has killed his their two daughters, and he's walking with the gun towards the house, and there is Fanny on the porch collecting firewood for making Christmas dinner, and Charlie takes the gun and shoots her directly, and he was so close to Fanny that he actually split her heart in two, figuratively and literally, and she died there right on the spot. After this, obviously, the oldest daughter Mary, who was 17 years old then, noticed the gunshots and she knew that something was wrong. She ran from the kitchen and she saw her mom on the floor with blood and she saw her father as well. So she immediately rushes towards the fireplace to grab the poker so that she could defend herself. But before she could even snap towards her dad or do something for saving her life, her dad shoots her and he literally snapped her neck in two, and she fall facing towards the fireplace, like into the fireplace in sort of a way. And meanwhile, the two boys, James and Raymond, who were 4 and 2 years old respectively, who were playing in the house, they understood that it was danger, something's wrong, and they have to hide. So we don't know where exactly were they hiding. Like, there are some articles which say that they were hiding under the kitchen sink, and some are saying that they were hiding in the bedrooms. So we don't know where exactly, but in short, they were hiding somewhere and he finds them. Now, one thing that I did miss is that in the previous murders that he did with the girls, Carrie and Mabel, after he shot them, he bludgeoned them to make sure that they were really dead. Like, he just did not want it for them to have any escape out of that thing. Same goes with Fanny and Mary. So when he shot Mary, he again wanted to make sure that Mary was actually dead. So he started bludgeoning on her with the butt of the gun, and the gun got jammed. At least some articles say that it did, and that is the reason why he couldn't shoot the other kids. That was James and Raymond, and then later on the 4-month-old Mary Lou. Yes, he even killed his 4-month-old Mary Lou, who was in her cradle and she was crying, obviously because of the gunshot, and he bludgeoned her severely, like in a very harsh manner. After all of this, what could be seen was that he had put pillows under their head and crossed their arms like in a funeral position. And in the case of Carrie and Mabel, whose body he hid in the tobacco barn, he had placed rock under their head and again crossed their arms on their chest in a funeral position. After all of this, what happened next is that he ran away to the nearby forest, which was like next to their farm. And yeah, that was a murder incident. Later on, Charlie's younger brother, he came to the house to wish everyone Merry Christmas, and instead he found the dead bodies. First he saw Fanny's, obviously, because she was right there in the porch. And yes, though Charlie had positioned all of the bodies except the last boys, because probably he felt like he did not have enough time for that, and he knew that people would be coming in to give their wishes, and that's why he couldn't position the last body. So yes, he found Fanny's body right there. Immediately he calls for help and for the police. The police comes to the house and there are 2 family members missing. Obviously, Arthur, the oldest son, who was out there in the market to do some errands, and of course Charlie himself. So they are looking for these guys, and somewhere in the market, Arthur heard about the news and he was shocked. He was like, I was with my family just some time ago. It's not possible. People are spreading rumor. Obviously, it was very difficult for him to, accept it. So he rushes towards his house, and as soon as he came near the periphery, he saw his dead mother's feet. And it was very difficult to stop him from not contaminating the crime scene. Now, when all of this was going on, a lot of people from the town, a lot of people from the village came over because back in the days, murder was a big thing. Like these days, we hear about murder all the time through news channels, TV, social media, and everything. But back in the days, it wasn't such a popular thing to talk about, or people did talk about it, right? So everyone was there gathered to see what has happened, and all of a sudden the pet dogs, they came out running from the forest and they heard a gunshot. And immediately the police officers out there, Arthur and the younger brothers of Charlie, they ran towards that noise. And when they went inside the forest, they found that Charlie had committed suicide by shooting himself. Now, there were a lot of footprints around a tree that was where his body was found. Obviously, that narrowed to the point that he was pacing before he committed suicide. There was also bloodstains found on the snow. Obviously, it was snowing a lot, so there was bloodstains found near a creek where it is said that he might have washed his hand. After all that bludgeoning and shooting and killing, his hands might have gone dirty. Now, with him, in his pocket, they found 2 letters. The first one said, "No one is to blame but." That's it. And the second letter said, "Trouble can cause." Yes, both the letters were incomplete, and probably, I don't know, maybe he was thinking which one to complete or something like that, and he might have heard all the ruckus that was going around his house, and he knew that he did not have a lot of time, so he just shot himself before he could complete the letters that he was writing to his parents. Immediately after this, everyone's body was taken to a nearby funeral house, but unfortunately, the space in the funeral house wasn't enough, so they were shifted to another funeral house. Everyone just wanted to know what was his motives, and there was this rumor that was going around that just before the Christmas where he did this, he had an accident with an axe and he had a concussion on his head. So after that concussion, he just started behaving in a totally different manner, like his personality changed. He got aggressive and very violent, and there were days like he would complain about not having sleep. He was suffering insomnia supposedly, and there were instances where he would weep in the middle of night to his wife, asking her questions like, was he a good husband? Did he ever make her cry? And there was this one incident that stuck out where he was trying to confess something to Fanny. He was like, "I want to tell you something, but I cannot do it." Like, he was very weird after that concussion he had with that axe accident. So there was that one rumor. Now, so as to investigate into depth what exactly was his motives, was it some mental illness he had because of the concussion, his brain was sent to Johns Hopkins Hospital for autopsy. Over there, they did all they could. Back in the days, they did not have hi-fi technology, and whatever they did have, it concluded that though his brain was smaller, there wasn't any such abnormality. Like, it wasn't something that was directioning towards any sort of mental disorder or mental abnormality. So that rumor gets clashed, at least for some people, and even till date people do speculate that it could have been the reason. Yeah, I totally agree, like that could be a reason. But the real motive did come out in 1990. So author Ambrose Jones and Judy Smith, they wrote a book together that was called White Christmas, Bloody Christmas, and it was based on the Lawson murders. In that book, they had the secret that could be the reason behind why Charlie murdered his family and then eventually committed suicide. So according to the authors, just before the day they were about to publish the book, one of the cousins of the Lawsons, Charlie's niece, Stella Lawson, called them and told them that she has to say something that she never did. And mind you guys, Stella was interviewed previously for this book, but she never talked about it or never acted very suspicious. So what was it that Stella wanted to say? Well, it's gonna blow your minds because probably you guys wouldn't have expected this. Even I didn't, frankly speaking. So according to Stella, a lot of her aunts and Fanny's sister-in-law on their funeral were talking about how Fanny was very worried about an incestuous relationship that was going in the family, in the Lawson family. And that incestuous relationship was between the father, Charlie, and the oldest daughter, who was 17 years old, Mary. Now, a lot of you guys would just say that this could be some, sick minds, thoughts and stuff like that. I know it is very much possible. People like to spread rumors, but then started coming a lot of people who never showed up, but all of a sudden, when this thing came in the book, they felt like they had the need to talk about it. Like Ella May. Ella May's statement was present in the book The Meaning of Our Tears, which was published in 2006 by the same authors. And according to Ella May, just a couple of weeks before the Christmas, Mary herself confessed during a sleepover that she was pregnant with her own father's child and she was abused into this. Now, one of the reasons why Mary was very comfortable in talking about it to Ella May was because Ella May had herself previously been abused by her father, so she felt like she could talk about it. Now, there was this another neighbor who was a very close friend of the Lawson family. He gave out a statement saying that he knew what exactly was going wrong inside the family, and it was something very strange, and he did not want to elaborate on it because it was something very personal. Now, before all of these statements, there was an anonymous call that the authors received in 1989 by this lady who said that once she went out to the house, which was turned into a tourist attraction by the brother Marion, immediately after the murder. Yes, he did turn that house into a tourist attraction. In his defense, he said that after the news broke out, everyone from around the country and the world, they started coming to the house and they were rummaging and contaminating the entire crime scene. So he thought, why not make money out of it? So he started selling these tickets for this tourist attraction house where the Lawson murder took place. And he said that he was saving that money for Arthur, who was orphaned. Okay, fine. And there was this thing that the cake Mary was baking that day for Christmas was placed out as a memento, some kind of showpiece, and people would come and pick out raisins out of it to take back as souvenirs. In the end, the younger brother, who had transformed that place into a tourist attraction, had to encase it in a glass box, and it was kept out there for a lot of years, like for coming years. Now, like I said, the lady who gave the anonymous call said that when she was out there for the tour guide had said that the girl, the oldest daughter, was pregnant with the father's child, and he was very sure about it. He said it out as a fact. Now, then the authors did not really look into it because they thought that it was someone just playing around with them. But in the end, the statements from Ella, the statements from Hill, and Stella herself did point out that they were indeed having an incestuous relationship. I mean, why would a family lie about it? Like, why? They have been quiet for 60 years, for more than 60 years about the incestuous relationship. And now that they have opened about it, I don't think that they would. I mean, if you ask me, I believe that this could have been the reason. The father would have been ashamed of his actions and he just wanted to die, and he felt like if he would die alone with his child pregnant with his child, then the name would go into the mud, and he had to save his family, and the only way he would save was by killing them. Now comes the part that why was Arthur left out of that entire case, entire scenario? Like, there are a lot of reasons and speculations. Like, there was this picture, the last portrait of the entire family that was taken just a couple of days before the Christmas, and like you can see in the picture, in the portrait, Arthur is much stronger and was taller than his father, and obviously Charlie must have felt that it would be very difficult for him to shoot him or to overtake him if it comes to a hand-to-hand violence. So he felt like he should send him away and kill just everyone. Or the second reason could be just to pass on the family legacy. I mean, back in the days, it was a very important thing, and he felt like since Arthur was the oldest son, he was capable enough to do that, and that's why he did just not kill him. Now, there are reasons that people did come up with. Like, we can just speculate and we would never know why he really did it, right? but it's my duty to tell you like the other aspects of the story as well. So another theory says that the Lawson family had witnessed an organized crime, and since they witnessed it, the original criminals murdered the entire family and then murdered Charlie and staged the entire murder. Also, there is another theory that says that Charlie actually got into a fight with a black man, and that man was the one who murdered everyone and staged the suicide of Charlie. After all of this, their bodies were put down in a graveyard that was initially made for the use of W.D. Browder family, but instead they started using it. Now, one of the strange things about the graveyard and the entire funeral was there were like more than thousands of people. Since this news broke out, so everyone was like going crazy and they wanted to see it. That was like really strange. And the other thing was that the father, the one who actually committed the murders, he was put in the grave with rest of his family, and their grave said, "Not now, but in the coming years it will be better land. We'll read the meaning of our tears, and then sometime we'll understand." End quote. I mean, it feels like some sort of prophecy that he wished that we would understand eventually. Like, I don't know, it kind of says that he did, what he felt like was the last thing that he could have done. And he wants us to understand that he had good motives and a solid reason behind it. Whatever the reason was, till date, like I said, we could only speculate, we would never know. The only family member that was left of the Lawson family was Arthur, who unfortunately after 16 years died in a motor car accident. He was married and he had 4 children. So that was all for the Lawson family murder. If you want to know more about it, you could obviously listen to the family murder ballad. Yes, there is a musical ballad. It was made by the Stanley brothers. It was like a big hit before the World War II. So my question to you all is, what do you think could be the reason, could be the motives of Charlie to murder his entire family? Or do you guys think it wasn't Charlie who murdered his family? Like, what do you guys think about it? And do tell me about it in the comment section, or you could directly message me on my Instagram handle. Also, I wish you all a Merry Christmas. I hope you enjoy and be happy. Take care. Love you.